Hey, I'm Nico from Licks of the Beast, and in this video, I'm gonna walk you through Iron Maiden's awesome new single, The Writing on the Wall. Before I even begin to talk about the song, I want to address Iron Maiden's promotional campaign for the release of the single, with the whole Belshazzar's Feast thing and the Writing on the Wall acronym, WOTW everywhere. Instead of the more common, hey fans, we have a new single dropping July 15th, click here to pre-order. No, these guys got us all excited and going crazy. Even I felt I was 14 again with my stomach in knots from the anticipation. So I think that was a fantastic job by the Maiden camp. Well done, guys. Also, I have to say, Bruce sounds incredible. Sure, some of the really high notes might sound a little strained, but he's never been a clean singer like Michael Kiske, and the power behind some of those long, wide notes is undeniable. Don't forget, this is a 64-year-old man who, a few short years ago, was fighting cancer and had to have a piece of his tongue removed. That he is still singing at such a high level with that kind of power and vocal elasticity, to me, it just blows my mind. This is probably the most subdued version of Nico I've ever heard, but I've got to say, it's impressive to hear him lay down such a solid groove with that kind of swing, and the snap in his snare is awesome. Meanwhile, Steve is keeping it simple, but filling up the space so much with lots of power chords and running 8 notes. Always pushing the beat, but not at all overplaying, so that the song never feels cluttered, even with the bass so present in the mix. The last thing I want to mention before we get to analyzing the song is the lyrics. These have to be some of Iron Maiden's best lyrics ever. They are current, intense, a little bit angry, but not holier than thou and not preachy. They paint a stark picture, but the message is overall still hopeful. My favorite line is, "The dead gave us the time to live, and now our time is done." Those are some seriously powerful and meaningful words that make you stop and think. So again, very well done. Alright, so with all of that being said, there is quite a bit going on to the song that we need to cover, so let's get right to it. So the song starts with this acoustic guitar intro in drop D tuning. This immediately puts you in the desert with that Ennio Morricone vibe. So right from the get-go, this is a very unique sound for Iron Maiden. Although it does bring to mind the end of If Eternity Should Fail. And perhaps this was either intended as a direct continuation of that song, or maybe it's built with some leftover parts from those writing sessions. And a lot of people seem to be saying that the song has kind of a southern rock or country rock overtone. But I find that aside from the spaghetti western vibe of the intro, the rest of the song, it's more like folk metal than anything else. Once the stage and the mood has been set, we go into this folky, bohemian sounding riff. This riff will serve as a bridge after the choruses later in the song. But this next part is only used as a transition to go into the verse riff and will never be used again. So next we have the verse riff. It starts off with kind of a jangly feel, like this. Then, when the drums come in, it becomes more staccato for a heavier feel. And that reminds me a little bit of Bad Company's Feel Like Making Love. So you have an electric and acoustic guitar playing this together. Then you have another guitar playing this. And yet another one is doing this. Making good use of that drop D tuning. That takes us to the pre-chorus. This part serves as a load up to the chorus, so that it gradually builds tension until this part, where they're laying down on that C chord, where you have to then wait for the resolution to the tonic, which is the payoff with a big catchy chorus. So what makes the chorus feel so good is that they've been doing all of this tight percussive strumming, and now it's just whole note chords that let the song breathe and the melody can shine through. There's also this other guitar part doing something like this. Just to add color and texture to the background. This kind of thing is used as an ornament and it makes things sound fuller and keeps your ears engaged. Then it goes back to that initial riff, which, as we mentioned earlier, serves as a bridge between the chorus and the next verse. There's also a cool single note harmony part to this riff, which adds a lot of texture and makes it sound even more folky. And it's interesting because not too long ago I was reading about how Steve Harris really likes Nightwish's music. And I find that this could totally be a Nightwish part, where Troy might be using some weird medieval instrument to play this harmony over the acoustic guitar. Now the second verse features some very clever arranging, and I just love when a band does this kind of thing, especially on a single, because it means that they're actually working to tell a story and are not just copy-pasting parts and then changing the lyrics of the second verse. So what they do is they make the second verse a kind of mashup of the verse and the pre-chorus together. So where the two parts were clearly defined the first time around, this time the verse gradually builds to the chorus by kind of having the pre-chorus built into it. So they're going along with the second verse. They start the pre-chorus on the C, but then they go to this D over B chord, and then they continue on with the verse. Then when they go to the C again, now it goes to the B flat, and then the C, which leads to the chorus again on D. And again, this is really cool expert level arranging right here. Another thing I want to point out is that the song is in D, but it moves back and forth between implying D minor and D major. And what's crazy is that you never really notice it. It just kind of flows. And this is when you're good at writing and arranging songs. You do things that can be a little complex to explain musically, but harmonically they sound simple and almost obvious. Now I want to end with a quick word about the solos. The first solo is played by Dave Murray, and I love his tone here. This sounds like old school aggressive Dave. Listen to the way the bends kind of cry and scream at the same time. Of course it has that fluid quality to it, but it's not one of his more flowy solos. It's got that Jimi Hendrix kind of stop and go thing where each lick is a solid statement. It's not one long flow, it's this and that and another thing. My favorite lick is this one right here. What I like about this lick is just how expressive each note is. So it's in the key of A minor now, because it's Maiden, so of course there's going to be a key change. And Dave is using the hexatonic scale, which is basically a pentatonic with an added second. And it's not this. It's actually like this. And it's just so damn cool. Of course, we're all losing our minds over Adrian's awesome solo. It sounds like he really took more time to work this one out because it's so well structured and the pacing is absolutely impeccable. It reminds me a bit of his work on Bruce Dickinson's Accident of Birth, but more blues based, like he went back to that after listening to a lot of Joe Bonamassa. Two things I want to talk about for this solo. First of all, the way he starts it. Adrian is the absolute king of starting solos. He always comes up with the most interesting, catchy, and memorable ways to hook you in for whatever comes next. And this one is no exception with this cool line right here. I mean, that's some powerful stuff right there. You hear that, your heart melts. But the coolest part for me is this sequence here. Those bends are very reminiscent of Albert King and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and the rest is just beautiful melodic phrasing. The way he goes from one melodic idea to the next is nothing short of masterful. All in all, I think this is one of Iron Maiden's more interesting singles. It's a very unique sounding song, especially for the pace and tempo. It's also really catchy because it's been stuck in my head ever since the premiere, and the vibe really takes me back to their early days, which of course I absolutely love. That's it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this little analysis and that it maybe gave you a little more insight into the song. Let me know your thoughts and questions in the comment section. Don't forget to leave a like and do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching and stay tuned for more licks of the beast.